Sea of Red, it's time for another Fireside Chat, the official podcast of Flames fans. It's go time.
Well, September is here, and we're already starting off with 2 Flames wins. As always, I'm Dan alongside Matt, kicking off our 14th season of the podcast. Matt, 2 Flames wins, how you feeling?
Oh, pretty good. It's always a good week when you beat the Oilers twice and, beat them up on the ice too.
Not just beating up the current Oilers, but giving PTSD to the future Oilers, knowing what's coming up with the future Flames.
Yeah, I must say I'm really liking the Maceo Phillips pick. He was quite fun.
So, if people aren't sure what we're talking about, the Flames did not do their usual Penticton tournament this year. They usually have the rookie tournament with a bunch of teams in Penticton. Instead, they did 2 what they're calling next-gen games for Battle of Alberta with the Oilers, 1 in Edmonton, 1 in Calgary. The first one was in Edmonton. Calgary got a 6-5 win. It was 6-2 in the third, and Edmonton managed to somehow score a bunch of goals, but Calgary held on. And then 5-4 win in Calgary on Sunday. That was a $10 game. Lots of kids there. Pretty much same lineup for both. Before we get into the lineup, Matt, I will say, in my opinion, especially that Edmonton game, the guy that hand over fist looked better than everybody else was Sam Honzik.
Yeah, he put on 15 pounds this offseason in the good hockey way of, adding muscle instead of the podcaster way of,
like
having...
you and I did.
Yes.
When we had our preseason weigh-in, we're not looking too good.
No. Yeah, he one of the problems he had was he was just too skinny. So he would get pushed off the puck, and now he's able to use his size appropriately, and you could see the difference where he was able to create some space in order to make some passes and plays that he wouldn't have been able to last year.
Yeah, and even just his hockey sense. Like, he just seemed like, maybe it's because he's had more pro time than a lot of these guys, but he just seemed like he was reading the plays better. He seemed like he was kind of understanding what was going on a little bit better. Like, he seemed to be in all the right places, doing all the right things. He was noticeable for all the right reasons here, and I think this could be the year that he really pushes for a roster spot.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he made the team out of training camp. It's not expected that he will, but the hockey IQ that he possesses, if he has a similar preseason to the one he had last year, he could force his way onto the team.
Yeah, and we have to remember last year he had that injury that kind of derailed that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was the whole reason he came out of training camp looking good and then had that injury. But going back to these next-gen games, we'll talk more about the roster later. Anyone else stand out for you?
Matvei Gradin, his shot is excellent. It's a little bit not quite as good as Coronado's, but it's close. And he just needs to improve the way he plays off of the puck, because he does kind of get invisible at times. But that's just a matter of pro experience, and I would not be shocked if he turned into a 20-plus goal scorer in the NHL. His foot speed is excellent, and everything that you would want from him. And another 2 players that also showed a lot of forward progress in their development were Idar Suniev and Jacob Battaglia. I feel that Suniev's biggest knock was that his foot speed was not very good, and he has markedly improved in that department this offseason. And Jacob Battaglia was just always noticeable every time him, Brisson, and Lang were out there, and they were creating havoc in the offensive zone every shift.
I think a lot of people think of Jacob Battaglia as being like his dad, more of the rough and tumble player, and I think he's got a lot more upside than the old man.
I don't think he's related to Bates.
I think they are they not?
I don't think so, no.
All right, we shall go take a look. You were mentioning Gridden earlier. Gridden, for those that don't remember, was the 2024 first-round pick, the second one, the 28th pick that Calgary had, and he hasn't really played pro yet. Like, he joined the Wranglers, didn't really play with the Wranglers. He was in the QMJHL last year. He's a guy that I think is going to need some pro seasoning.
Oh, for sure. And like with him, I would not expect him or guys like Battaglia or Suniev to make the Flames this year. But all three of those players made significant steps forward in their development and were showing that they're top prospects in this organization.
Yeah, and you and I talk about this all the time. We say this, time in and time out on the show. You need to give these guys time, right? I mean, they might be exciting, they might be fun. We don't want to rush them up to the NHL. I think Battaglia, Basha, Suniev, these are guys that are going to need just some time to be Wranglers, and that's okay. That's how they get to be better players.
Yeah, like we even saw with Coronado how he was kind of borderline terrible at the NHL level in his first season. And then the following year, after some seasoning in the AHL, turned into a 7-year contract player. So, having
Not
these
just a
guys,
contract player, but I would say probably the best sort of NHL, young NHL forward this team has.
yes, and it just having the depth available to allow these guys to properly learn at the AHL level instead of rushing them to the NHL will pay dividends in a couple of years.
And you're right. I was fact checking this. Jacob is not related, so you're right. Jacob and Bates are not related. Another guy that I saw in these games that I was surprised by was Owen Say, the goaltender. Especially that first game. I thought that he looked a lot better. Now, I mean, it's a rookie game, but he looked a lot better than I thought he was going to be. For, again, a guy that is coming right out of college hockey and, again, really has no pro experience.
Yeah. One of the walk-on players, Nathan Brisson, I thought played very excellently. He scored twice and had 2 assists in the 2 games.
I don't think he gets a Flames deal this year. I would not be surprised if they toss him an AHL deal.
It's one of those that if they don't sign him by X date, if I recall correctly, he has to just basically go back into the draft next year as an overager. He did have 74 points in the queue last year. So, he is a skilled player. He's just a little bit on the short side at 5'10". But might be worth throwing a draft pick at next year or a contract.
I want to see Nathan Brisson. He looked good in these. I want to see how he does against NHL players. I would give him one more preseason game.
I agree. And especially with the split squad game coming up against the Oilers next week, I would expect him to be in one of those 2 games.
And then a guy that I expected to see more of was Hunter Brzustevich, who played in both games. I mean, he was good on the defensive side, but I kind of expected him, sort of like Hanze, to be hand over foot better than everybody.
I'm not really surprised just because of the lack of structure and the first games of the... if this was a little bit further into, training camp, I'd be a little bit more concerned, but... his timing was a little off, but not terribly, and not really any more noticeably than any of the other players on the team either, especially on the back end. Everybody kind of struggled a little bit on the defensive side of things. So. And
then you were mentioning Maceo Phillips earlier. You were liking what you saw there?
Yeah, well, the difference between him and some of the other big guys that we've had is his foot speed. And he is just... the guy that he most reminds me of, frankly, is Nikita Zadorov, where, he just has that menacing presence. And
For
it's
those who don't know, Phillips is 6'6".
Yeah, 230 pounds, and it's if you're coming down his side of the ice, you have to keep your head up because otherwise you're going to be smashed into the boards, or he will just, hit you with a devastating open ice hit. And he did line up a few of the Oilers in each of those games and got into a fight, and his offensive game is never going to translate. But if he does make the NHL, he would be a very fearsome number 5-6 defenseman for the Flames.
I think in some cases today we put too much emphasis on offensive defensemen. I mean, they're good to have and you want one or two of them, but not every defenseman, in my opinion, needs to be a great offensive defenseman. And I think sometimes we're looking for offensive defensemen almost to be more of a forward than a defense in some systems. Like, I think this is a guy who just needs to work on the defensive side of the game, and I think there will be a spot for him on the roster if he can be a good defenseman.
Yeah, like if you look at a guy like Chris Tanev, you're not really looking at him to be the offensive dynamo. Like if he gets 5 points in a year, you're kind of like, oh, good, you actually contributed, and you also did all the important things that you're getting paid for. So, it's one of those where, like, I don't ever expect Phillips to be anything close to an offensive player, but if he can bring that intimidation factor to this organization, like he could become a fan favorite down the road.
And even a guy like Hanifin, right? I mean, he got, 1 year in Calgary, 7 goals, 31 assists. Like, I think Maceo needs to be a guy that can move the puck, but not necessarily be the guy that's going to score.
Yeah, like honestly, if he gets, like 2 or 3 goals in a season and like 10 points, that's perfectly fine if you're a 5-6, especially if you're more than happy to, punish the other teams for coming into your zone and clearing the front of the net and doing all the yard work.
Ryan Lomberg things.
Yes, the yard work in front of the net.
Yep. And again, a guy that's not even pro yet, so a couple of years till he's ready to do those jobs for the Flames, but an interesting name to watch.
Yeah, it's just one of those where a lot of people were concerned about the draft pick, but there is a lot of potential with this one.
Yeah, and, we've said this before, too, and I'll say it again. Not every pick is going to become your top player. Not everyone can be your top, 6 forward or top 2 defenseman. You need to fill out a roster. And if you can use a pick like they did with Phillips, which, was not, let's call it a high-end pick. If you can use the pick, Phillips was what? He was the
third rounder.
So if you can get a third rounder who can play, as a consistent 5-6 for, let's say, 4 years, I think you've made a good third round choice.
Yeah, that's a bit of a home run for that draft pick. So
you got to fill out a whole roster.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But those were fun games to watch. It was nice to see hockey again. Just as a kind of side note, because it's the first time we saw it on TV, what do you think of the new center ice?
I like it.
New center. So for fans that don't know, they've always had the red C on a white circle, and now they've got a red circle with a white C, and I think it looks really cool.
I'm always happy when they do something different, and like even in other arenas when they do something interesting, like say it's like a insert team's here's like 30th anniversary or whatever, and like they put like a special logo at center ice or just do something different. It's always a little bit fun.
And I'm curious if this is a one-off or if this is kind of going to be the ice that carries them into the new arena, which I'm hoping it is.
Yeah. Well, it's the first time since 1996 that they've changed up the format. So, yeah, it's been a minute.
One of the things I do like, and you can find a picture online if you haven't seen it, the center ice has the Flames flaming C all the way down it, which is cool. And also, they used to put like the red line kind of right over the logo and obscure the logo, but now they've opened the red line, if that makes sense, so that they've got most of the logo showing through it. I think whoever planned it did a really good job planning it.
Yep.
It's not going to look as good at the face-off. I think you're going to see a lot of red moving around, but I think it's going to look sharp on the ice. And they were kind of doing that already, like with those lights they had. They were already making center ice red before the game, so I think it's going to look really good that way. But with that match, we move on to talking about contracts.
Yeah, the always fun accounting side of this podcast.
You and I were waiting for a contract to be signed, and that was Zary. It took longer than I expected to. I don't know about you, but Zary signed a 3-year, $11.325 million contract, which is an average cap hit of $3.775 million. What do you think of that deal?
Well, I think before the start of the offseason, I think you and I said somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 years, 3.5 to 3.75 would be about right. And basically, yeah. I think that the ask on Zary's cap was probably closer to the $5 million mark. And with Marco Rossi signing for just over $5 million after a 50-plus point season, didn't really give Zary too much of a leg to stand on in terms of bargaining for that kind of dollar amount.
I saw a lot of fans over the summer and even media people saying, they thought Zary was probably looking for north of 4. And I kept responding, show me a comparable, right? I mean, if he was going to arbitration, that would be what they'd be asking him for. Let's be honest here. I mean, Connor Zary is a fun player to watch. He's only played 117 NHL games, has 27 goals, 34 assists, and 61 points, and has not really played a full season of hockey since, 2022-23. Like, I think you would be hard-pressed to find somebody who would be comparable at $4 million plus.
Yeah, and realistically, this is kind of a show-me contract, much in the line of like Frost's contract, where he will still be a restricted free agent at the end of the deal, but it also gives the Flames the flexibility, like if they have other options internally to go in a different direction, or if he establishes himself as a top 6 center, to sign him for the 7-year whatever $1 million at that point.
Yeah, I don't think the Flames are going to need this $3.5 million in the next 3 years. I think they can afford this against their cap. Even if he ends up being, your number, let's call it 4C, if he were to fall that far, I think they'll be able to afford that. And I mean, that's really, when Backlund comes off the books into next year, you're going to kind of swap that money for Zary's money in a way. I think if Zary can stay healthy and be who we think he can be, this is a great deal. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. I'm still not sold that Zary is going to be able to be a full-time NHLer.
Well, and it's one of those, he shows the flashes of being that top 6, 60-point second-line center, and then he disappears for a bit. And just needing to see some consistency. And it's much like Morgan Frost when he was with the Flyers, where there was flashes of that level of skill, but it never materialized consistently there for them. And they decided to move on. And Zary is getting a really good opportunity of 3 years, where there isn't really any competition at the center ice position. So it's like, if you want the job, you can take it, much like Coronado did. And, the ball's in his court. And either earn a lot more money or, decisions will be made later on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, 3 years is a little longer than I probably would have gone. I mean, I think 3 years, 3.75 was my maximum. I probably would have gone 2 years if I was picking it. But
yeah,
I see why they probably wanted to go the extra year, and I don't think it's going to hurt anything. But I think, like you said, this is Zary's chance to show if he can do this or not. And I still think I'm still not sure. Like you said, Zary's in a roster where there's not a lot of center depth. I still don't know if he's a center.
True, and that also plays into things as well. And centers get paid more, just generally. So, it's up to him if he can stick there. If he doesn't, there are plenty of wingers available, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see, and it'll be a good storyline for everybody to cover over the next couple of years to see exactly what player Zary is.
Yep. Yeah, I think, we always like our own guys, and I think fans really like Zary because, like you said, he has flashes of brilliance, but to me, he hasn't shown enough in 117 games to know what he is. I think he could be good, but he still needs to prove it to me.
Yeah, and it's much like Coronado heading into the last year, where it's like, we see if you're an actual NHL player, or, one of those that's too good for the AHL but not good enough for the NHL. Coronado passed his test and was rewarded for it. Now the ball's in Zary's court to show over the next few years if he can be similarly good.
Yeah, and he's only 23. I mean, he's got a lot of upside, but it's going to be a matter of if he meets that upside or not. And then the other big deal we should talk about, Dustin Wolf re-signed. He's a Flame till he's, 30 or 31? I don't know if he's entering his 24 or 25-year-old season. I know he's 24 now. 7 years, $7.5 million average. Matt, you could not have got a better deal on this kid, could you have?
No. And locking him up long term, you don't need to really think about the goaltending position for the next few years. Unless he completely flames out, which he's not shown any signs of that in his entire career up to this point. And as I have said through the 14 years of our show, you just keep throwing darts at the board for goaltenders and hope that one hits the bullseye. And it looks like the Flames did with Wolf, and locking him up long term. You don't really need to be urgently looking for another goaltender coming through the system for a bit.
That's why they signed Prosvetov. He's not going to be the next starter, but he's good enough.
Yeah.
This is like those years when we had Kipper and whoever they could find.
Yes, Danny Taylor and
Noodles and
Henrik Karlsson and Leland Irving and
Yep. And okay, so let's look at the worst case scenario here. If Dustin Wolf were to get hurt or something, I mean, you can take this off the books if he gets hurt, but even $7.5 million, you're not going to have another guy who's going to need to get paid that before he does. So even if you had another goalie coming up making 2-3, I think eventually you'd be able to replace those. And teams seem to like reclamation project goalies. Like if Wolf had a couple of crappy years, I think you could probably move that deal to somebody who thinks they could bring him back to his form.
Well, you saw like Matt Murray as a perfect example of that when he got moved from the Penguins to the Leafs. That, hey, we need a goalie. Let's try him out.
And I think as Dustin gets older, that deal's going to be easier and easier to move because, I mean, he's making 7.5 now. We're seeing goaltenders already that haven't even won the Vezina, but have Vezina nods making $10 million. Like, as the cap keeps inflating, I think this could be the best deal on the team when it's over. Like, if the Flames can win a cup with this guy during this deal and we're paying our starter 7.5, I think this could look fantastic.
I agree. And
I think the other important thing to remember here is this shows people want to be in Calgary. Right after the Gaudreau departure, after the Tkachuk departure, there was this narrative that people didn't want to be here, especially Americans. And I think... Yeah,
it's amusing that the two long-term contracts that were signed were by an American and another American.
You're talking...
Between Coronado.
That's right. Coronado and the goaltender, both of them. But yeah, I think it's showing that young guys want to be here. And I think that's going to be important to, as the Flames want to compete again, to, kind of show that, there's a place you want to live.
Well, and on top of that, it's just good asset management for this team because, you look at, organizationally, the amount of defense that they have in the system between, guys like Burstevich, Perek, Moran, all the way down the list. They're going to have a very robust defense core moving into the next handful of years. And in the next couple of seasons through the draft, they can go on, big game hunt on the centers that they need. This team could easily be turning it around and, building towards being a playoff team and potentially a contending team in 3-4 years when you have guys like Coronado and Wolf who potentially are taking a first line winger spot and a first starting goaltender making a bargain contract based on what the salary cap's projected to be in a couple of years. So, it'll be interesting to see.
It gives you more money to go big game hunting.
Exactly. So, when you get those free agents available, or you can take on, how the Panthers took on the Seth Jones contract, you can slot that guy into your lineup without, bankrupting your team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. And, I mean, we kind of saw this, I would say, back during the Treliving days, right? I mean, we always said, wow, there's some fantastic contracts coming out. Even the Giordano deal, we were surprised how well that deal was. The Hanifin deal, we were surprised how cheap that deal was. I think Calgary's kind of getting back to that, being a place guys want to be, especially, I think, young guys. And we're seeing that here. Wolf, a young guy, Coronado, a young guy. This isn't just the, 30-plus-year-old guys with kids who want to sell down. This is, oh yeah, young players want to play here. And that's only, I think, even when you're looking ahead to the draft, you're going to get more guys that are okay to come play in Calgary.
Oh yeah, especially because like Calgary seems to be developing their players correctly. Yeah. Like where you're seeing guys like Honzik, like Gradin,
and both these guys that we're talking about came through the Wrangler system.
Yeah, and like they're making tangible steps each year in their progress to being an NHL player, and the guys that have graduated, like everybody seems to be heading into that direction. And it's a good thing, and it'll be interesting to see if this team can keep capitalizing on that and show that, like, hey, we're going to be building this correctly into a cup caliber team. You know, you just got to wait and see, basically.
I don't know if Dustin Wolf will be here 7 years from now. I mean, that's a long time, but...
you can't really guarantee any player will be here 7 years from now.
But I think it's either way, it's a great deal. I mean, if you've got to, move this money to IR and Carey Price him, fine, you can do that. If someone else can emerge as the new guy, you could even pay another guy $5 million to be the 1A, 1B type scenario. Or if you've got to move it, I think at some point, you know what? There's a lot of teams that would love to take on a goaltender for 7.5 4 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
When I think how would you say is making 9, 10, and even 12 million by then?
Well, how would you say it's like the Kadri contract when it was signed? It's kind of like, oh, that's a little bit rich for the term. But now that we're a few years into it, the $7 million, it's like, hey, for a good second line center that's got veteran experience, hey, that's actually a bit of a bargain contract now. And
yeah, well, especially because we're buying UFA years from Wolf with this one. Like, he'll be 32 when it expires. I thought the price was fairly cheap to buy UFA time.
Yes, I agree.
If it was taking them right to UFA year, because they're pretty much buying 5 UFA years from him because he started so early. I think that's dirt cheap to buy 5 UFA years.
I agree. Like, honestly, I would have expected this contract to be like 8.5 to 9. Based on...
Me too, yeah. Like, when I heard Wolf was done, even when you and I have talked about it, I was spending 8.5, 9, somewhere in there, or a,
shorter
3
deal.
Or $3 million this year, going all the way up to 9, but it seems like it's a nice, easy deal. He got a $2 million signing bonus, 7.5 a year. I love this. I don't think anybody can criticize Conroy for this.
No.
And then just to wrap it up, there is a 10-team no trade from years 3 to 7. So
Edmonton, and then
Winnipeg,
Buffalo.
Edmonton, Winnipeg, Buffalo, and we'll see who's crappy at that time.
Yeah.
You wonder, because, he's from the San Jose area. Is San Jose on that list or not?
Yeah.
Who knows how they'll be doing by then?
How much does he hate the Kings or Anaheim or, yeah.
I think Anaheim could be a better team by year 3 of this deal, but we'll see. But yeah, no, I think this is a fantastic deal for the Flames. And I think this also shows, like you were saying, this team's getting better. This team's on their path to winning. And I think both the Coronado deal and the Wolf deal show that these guys want the Flames to be able to build, and they don't want to ring Conroy out for everything he's got. They want to make sure that there's room there to bring in other successful players, and I think that's a great part of that team mentality.
You can look to the team that has won the last 2 Stanley Cups. How did they build it? And they had guys, come through their organization, and they built slowly. Guys like Barkov and Ekblad. And they were able to add and add and add and add as the years went by. And, the Flames are seeing that model and trying to follow it, where you can, in the latter parts of these long-term contracts, you can go and slot the, higher priced guys like Reinhart, like Tkachuk, like Seth Jones in to push your team over the cusp again. And, if you have the cap space, you can actually play. And it'll be interesting to see, especially 4 or 5 years from now, if they can manage things properly to achieve that goal.
I'm just doing a little bit of math here. So right now, Wolf's contracts were 7.85% of the Flames cap. If it ends in 2031 and if the NHL's cap rate rises as its projected rate over the next 3 years, it'll be worth 5.4% of the cap, which would be the equivalent this year of $5.2 million. So if you think about that, even if Wolf doesn't have a monster year every year, even if we've seen a lot of goalies, let's be honest, that come in and have 1 or 2 good years and they're just mediocre. Even if he becomes a better than average goaltender at that kind of cap hit, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that more or less is like the league average starter type contract, not potential top tier guy contract. So,
well, I mean, what were the Oilers playing Skinner to play in the AHL?
Oh, Jack Campbell of 5.3.
Campbell, yeah, Skinner played in the NHL. Yeah, I was.
Well, they're about equally good, so it's not hard.
I was looking at the Skinner deal, and that's why I said his name. So yeah, I mean, Stuart Skinner's making $2.6 million. Campbell, yeah, I think he was making like $5 million. So if you think about that, I mean, that's probably what the Flames negotiating was: is how many times better than Skinner are you? Here's your cash.
Yep.
But no, this is a deal. I think. There's been a lot of hesitation by some from Conroy being a new GM, but I think this is great. And these guys are banking on the future. They're banking on the new rink. They're banking on the Flames being better. I love that these guys want to be here.
I agree.
I was half expecting, Matt, after the mass departures of Gaudreau and Kachuk, we were going to see some years of just guys trying to get the heck out of here. And, I'm glad to see already that's turning around.
With the new building incoming and Calgary being a nice place to live and like all of the foundational pieces starting to actually fit properly, it all of a sudden, much like the Oilers were, persona non grata for so very long, until McDavid got there and their new arena, it's like Calgary's going to become a destination, especially if they can actually turn things around in terms of the on-ice product as well.
I fully agree with you there. And let's talk about another guy who chose to come back to Calgary. So the Flames have made a coaching move, bringing back a former Flame, both former Flames player and Flames assistant coach, and also Hitman head coach. Assistant coach Brad Larson is stepping away from the team due to a family reason, so the Flames needed to find another coach and brought Dave Lowry back. Dave Lowry, for those who don't remember, played for the Flames from 2001 to 2004. He was with the St. John's Flames for a little bit, but pretty much 2000 to 2004. Then when he retired, he became an assistant for the Hitmen, eventually their head coach, went on to coach for the Flames as an assistant, the Victoria Royals, the LA Kings, the Brandon Wheat Kings, the Winnipeg Jets, the Seattle Kraken, and now he's back here. And, again, a guy who has had NHL jobs and chose to come back here. And I think this is a great addition to the team. He's a guy who understands the city. He's a guy who I think is good with young players. I think we've seen that on his other teams. I think having Husko, still a fairly inexperienced coach, bringing on a more seasoned coach like this is going to be a good addition to the team. I
agree.
So right now, the Flames coaching staff, for those that don't know, is Ryan Husko's head coach, Cale McLean is assistant, Trent Cull is assistant. He was, quote-unquote, called up last year from the Wranglers and has been given a full-time assistant coaching job. Jordan Siglet is senior goaltending coach, Dave Lowry is assistant coach, Jordan LaBarbera is goaltending coach, and Jamie Pringle's the assistant video coach. So really, the only change there being Cull and Lowry from last year. I think if you had to look at someone here as kind of the heir apparent, if, let's say something were to happen with Huska, I think it would be Lowry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of surprised he's not in that quote-unquote, I still don't know what an associate coach does, so I use quote-unquote associate coach.
Yeah, it's basically, he gets paid more than the assistant coaches. And
I'm kind of surprised Dave Lowry didn't come in with that title, because he is the most experienced guy on this team. But one thing I love about Lowry, especially from a young team, is he has experience coaching the Dub. He has experience coaching the NHL. Like, he knows how to work with young players.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially like with this team, working through like all the growing pains of transforming raw players into legitimate NHLers, you need a coaching staff that knows how to work with and teach. And like Huska's done a great job since he's been hired, and we'll see if that carries on.
Yeah, and I mean, when Conroy came in and then we heard Dave Nonis was the assistant GM, I love that because you got the veteran guy. And I guess this Lowry deal is what I was waiting for when Huska became coach. I was waiting for that kind of veteran assistant to come in, and I don't think they ever really had that. And that's the role that I think Dave Lowry now fills that the Flames were maybe lacking a little bit. And also a guy who comes from some really successful organizations too, and can maybe, shed some light with Huska of, hey, how do we do things in LA, or how do we do things in Winnipeg or Seattle? And I think that's always something you can bring to the table and say, here's how they were doing it over here. Kind of weird to me though that like Lowry has not had an NHL job. He seems like that guy that's been around forever and would have been tapped even for like a interim head coach at some point.
Yeah, it's sort of like Jeff Ward until he became the head coach here. Like, he had been bouncing around forever, and yeah.
Yeah, is he... I don't even know where Jeff Ward is anymore. He's a head coach again in the Swiss League.
No.
So, still got his head coaching gig. He went to Anaheim after us, didn't he?
Yes, as their assistant coach, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So, yeah, no, I think a good addition to the coaching staff. But let's shift ahead. One more thing we'll talk about before we shift ahead. Just a small piece of news, nothing that's going to be huge. The Calgary Flames have renewed a multi-year deal with the Rapid City Rush of the ECHL to be their affiliate. We really haven't seen the Flames utilize that ECHL affiliate much in the last couple of years in terms of sending players there. The Wranglers have had a bunch of call-ups because they've been either gutted with injury or the Flames have taken a bunch of guys. But good to see that relationship's staying. And I have a strong feeling there will be at least one goaltender wearing a Rapid City jersey this year. I mean, right now they have Cooley, Prosvetov, Say, Sergeyev, and Wolf all under NHL contracts. So somebody's going to probably need to go down there. And then also, I think they've got Connor Murphy under an AHL deal.
Yeah. I would kind of expect that Say would probably be the guy to go to the ECHL, him or Sergeyev. Just depends on who plays better, I guess, in the Wranglers training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think Connor Murphy will go down, the AHL goaltender, and then you'll probably have, I think Say has probably more potential, so I think you'll probably send him down there, and then keep Sergeyev and Cooley as your AHL team, but who knows? It's interesting, though. Like last year, Devin Cooley was kind of the heir apparent, and now I don't know where he is in that depth chart.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, and we won't be able to get even a bit of a read on it until training camp starts, when him and Prosvetov will be fighting for the backup spot.
I don't think there's any way that Cooley is the backup over Prosvetov starting this season.
Could be. It depends. Like, if he has a really good training camp like he did last year, because like he was good up until he got hurt. If he bounces back to that form, he might steal the job.
But I think you could steal it. But I think it would be, show us for a half season you can do that again.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that training camp. Starting this week, the rookie camp has started. The Flames have a split squad game coming up on the 21st. Split squad in Edmonton, which is likely going to be a lot of younger players, not as many NHLers. Matt, looking at this NHL team for the Flames and the guys that are under NHL contract, how many of these roster spots, let's start with the forwards and then we'll go defense and goalie. How many forward roster spots do you think are locks, and how many do you think that there's some room for movement?
I think most of the forward roster spots are set. Like, the Flames have 14 veterans that should be NHLers, and it's basically a gauntlet being thrown to guys like Honzik, like Battaglia, like Gradin, saying, well, if you want to start with the team, be better than those people. And Honzik has the inside lane on that, and I think that of any of them to make the NHL team, it would be him.
I just don't know where you put him.
Yeah, and that's kind of going to be the fun.
If we look at the forwards here, we've got Huberdeau, Kadri, Zary, Coronado, Backlund, Coleman, Farabee, Frost, Sharangovich, Klapka, Postel, Lomberg are the guys that I have kind of in pen. I think Klapka makes the team for sure this year. So where do you put Honzek?
I know, and it depends. Like if there's injuries, you might transition Lomberg to be the 13th forward and have Honzek play on the line with Klapka and Pospisil, which would be a little bit of a weird line, but certainly would be one of the tallest lines in NHL history. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I think that 12 spot with Lomberg might be the only spot that might be negotiable on that front.
We should probably also announce that one of the deals we didn't talk about was Pospisil, and he signed a $7.5 million deal for 3 years, $2.5 million a year in the offseason as well. I can see actually Pospisil being the guy who gets out of the lineup. Like, I didn't like what I saw from him promotion last year.
Yeah, and that's also a possibility. I think that due to his contract, that he more than likely will be given every opportunity to stick in the lineup. Much like you said with Cooley needing half the season in the AHL, I think it'd be like you get half the season in the NHL to stay in the lineup. And
yeah, because I mean, Postel's a better winger, but I don't know where you put him on the wing.
Yeah.
I also think Justin Kirkland's a name that wasn't mentioned earlier that is going to be in contention for a roster spot.
Yeah. Who knows? Like, it's going to be tough.
I mean, it's a good problem to have, but if you're a young forward, I think, okay, who is expendable? Like, if I look at it, I don't want to do it, but if you're better than Blake Coleman, I'll move Coleman.
Honestly, that was the name that was jumping to mind while you were talking, and basically the Flames...
It's going to take a hell of a lot for me to move Coleman, though, if I'm Conroy.
Yeah, well, and it's like you more or less got Coleman's replacement in Joel Farabee in that trade last year. Yeah. So functionally, like, having two of the same guy doesn't make a ton of sense. So, like, if you're going to move one, you obviously move Coleman just due to age and stage of his career. It'll be interesting to see, and it's...
Yeah, I mean, if I look at what you're getting for value, nobody's giving you anything for Huberdeau. Kadri, I don't think is as valuable as some fans here think. Backlund's not going anywhere. You really can't move a center anyways. Coronado's not going anywhere. No one's going to give anything for Frost or Farabee, I think. They still need to prove themselves. I don't think anyone will give you much for Sharangovich after last year. So, like...
Yeah, you've got nothing, basically, that's easily...
They're not going to get rid of Lomberg. They like him as a team guy. That's why I think Coleman and Postel are the only guys you can pull out.
Yeah, and...
Maybe Klapka, but also, like, okay, so if Sam Honzek's on the fourth line, like you were saying, do you put him on the fourth line or do you put him on the first line for the Wranglers?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing.
I think he's better off served playing in the A at that point.
Oh, for sure. And I think that what you'll probably see is, like, the first handful of months where the Flames basically ride out the season and see where they're at, and basically before the Olympic break, like, I'm assuming that they'll kind of wind things down and, like, if they're going to move guys like Coleman, etc., and whomever else at the trade deadline, that they will do that by then. And, barring injuries, of course, because...
Yeah, I mean, as much as we have Zary signed, I think that's the only real wild card to me there is... If Zary's not healthy, I think Honzek becomes that first winger call-up.
I agree.
You were talking about making deals at the Olympic break. So just so it's on the record, the UFAs this year: Michael Backlund, Ryan Lomberg, Justin Kirkland. I think Lomberg will sign for whatever the Flames offer him next year. It seems like he loves the city. I don't think Kirkland's going anywhere. I mean, no one's going to have let's just say, a bidding war for Costco. And Backlund might be the only name there that is questionable, but you need a center if you're going to get rid of him.
Yeah. And you would probably keep, Frost, Zary, and Pospisil.
Kadri, Frost. Like, I don't like Pospisil as a center. I think you'd have to go Zary, And then
Kirkland, maybe.
Yeah.
It'll get sketchy, but, honestly, if the Flames are at the bottom of the standings and you decide to move Backlund, it's like, yeah, who cares? We're terrible at that point, so who cares if we suck a little more? Oh, no.
Let's move on to the back end then. On the defense, Mackenzie Weegar, Kevin Ball, Rasmus Anderson, Joel Hanley, Jake Bean, Daniil Miramanov, and Braden Pakal were the defensemen we ended last year with. We know as well that Zane Parek's in there, even though he's currently hurt. Let's start with him. What do you think the likelihood is that Parek is a full-time Flame this year?
100%.
I think you have to find a spot for him for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those where he is too good for the junior leagues. He's
also
too good for the
A. Yeah.
Like, they can send one guy to the A now.
Is that starting this year already?
I think so. And if not, he's still too good for that league as well. So you might as well... Again, if the Flames were contender mode, you probably would send them back to juniors for another year just to kick everybody's butt down there. But,
See, if the Flames were contenders, I probably wouldn't send them to junior. I'd send them to the A.
Yeah.
I'd say go down to the A, kick butt there, learn how to be a pro.
Yeah, but on-the-job training in the NHL, you got Huska, who is great at teaching defensemen how to play defense. You use him, and let Parek, have those growing pains. And he's going to have games where you're like, what are you doing defensively? But
it's part of the growth. I mean, as much as we love Dustin Wolf, he had some terrible games his first year too.
Yeah, exactly. So, as for the rest of things,
looking at that, I mean, let's assume Anderson starts with the team at this point.
Yeah.
So I think Hanley will be in that group.
Yeah.
I don't think Bean, Miramanov, and Bakal have guaranteed jobs.
No. Miramanov, to me, is probably going to be in Europe or the A to start the year.
Well, I don't think you'd have to release him to go to Europe. I think they'll waive him and just send him down to the American League.
And between Hanley, Pakal, and Bean, it's not a high hurdle for a guy like Brustevich or Poirier to jump over if they're ready.
I think Brustevich could use another year in the American League. I think Poirier's time is now. Even if you don't know what he is, I think he's old enough. He's been with this organization long enough. You throw him out as a 5'6" and see what you got.
Well, and similarly, Soloviev is basically ready for the NHL as well.
Yeah.
And, as much as having depth is a good thing, frankly, the Flames have 2 extra defensemen for what they need at this point. And, if you had Hanley as the 6'7" and Pahal as the 7'8", and you graduated some of the older AHLD that are ready to try to be an NHL player, I think that would be a good thing overall.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Poirier and Soloviev... I mean, Poirier's 23 now. Soloviev's 25. If you're still playing in the AHL 25, to me, you're probably not going to make it. So
well,
I think
and the thing is, with Soloviev, he's looked decent during each of his stints in the NHL. So, and no different than any of the other guys. Let's see what if there are any actual potential to be better than...
And Pakal looked decent last year. I think he'll be on the, at least starting the season here. But this team likes to carry 7 or 8 D. So I can see it being Weegar, Ball, Anderson, Pakal, Soloviev, Poirier as kind of your 7. And then probably Hanley there as well for veteran support. But that puts Jake Bean as the man out. Again, I don't think you lose Bean or Miramanov on waivers if you want to dump them to the Wranglers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably where both of those guys will land. Especially...
I think for both Emile Poirier and Ilya Soloviev, the time is now. If they don't turn pro now...
then you can write them both off as prospects. And, you're looking at guys like Grushnikov and Kuznetsov and... the Moran and Muse and all
what
the other...
What do you think about Kuznetsov?
I think he is much in the same position that Soloviev was a year or 2 ago, where, he needs to get a couple more kicks at the can at the NHL level, but he's in that same conversation. If he has a good training camp, he can easily leapfrog any of those guys as well.
Yeah,
they're all they're all in the same kind of conversation. Same with Grushnikov. Like, it just depends on how they play in training camp.
I think that, to me, there's some tiers for the defense. And I think there are spaces for the D-men. I think that Poirier and Soloviev, to me, are that kind of one. One of those guys has to make it, if not both. I think then you've got Kuznetsov and Grushnikov as kind of your two. Those would be my first young call-up guys. And then I think you've got kind of everyone else after that. I'm not including Verstavich, because I think Verstavich just needs another AHL year. I think he's the best one on the list, but I'm not ready to move him up yet. I think he's going to get more being a 1-2 in the A than being a 3, 4, 5, 6 in the NHL.
Like, how would you say? It's like Coronado when he first started cracking the AHL lineup. Like, yeah, he was clearly, you could see the NHL potential there, but he needed time in the A. And
yeah,
Verstavich is kind of in that, like, where if you threw him in the NHL, would he be okay? Yeah, but for his long-term development, is it better to be in the A? Yes.
And I can very easily see a scenario where Verstavich starts in the American League, and then Anderson gets traded, and he takes that roster spot.
Exactly. And that's exactly how I feel that particular situation will kind of play out as time goes on.
So I think that's where there's a lot of potential movement. Jeremy Poirier, as we talked about, some of these other guys, I think that's where the Flames have some spots. And then let's move down to goalies. I think coming into the season, a lot of people expected to be Wolf and Cooley. Like you said, Cooley looked fantastic last year up until he got hurt. The Flames went out and signed Ivan Prosvetov in the offseason. That gives them Cooley, Prosvetov, Say, and Sergeyev as possibilities. I think at this point, I have a feeling that to bring Sergeyev back over from Europe, they probably had to tell him he was going to at least get the NHL job out of camp.
Yeah, for Prosvetov, yeah. I would assume so.
Prosvetov. That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah. I think to bring him over, because he was a pro over there. He's from Russia. I don't think you're going to want to come over here to play in the A. You'd probably just stay in the KHL at that point. So I think, I was thinking about Sergeyev because I think Sergeyev goes to the ECHL. I think Prosvetov will be the NHL backup, and then everybody else sort themselves out among the A or get loaned out somewhere.
Yeah, and Prosvetov had flashes of being decent, much like Vladar.
He's got 24 NHL starts to his record.
Yeah. And
19, sorry.
Yeah, and I've seen 2 of them at least against us. So, yeah, like, he's okay. We'll see if, the wheels fall off the wagon or not, but,
I just think, again, from a developmental perspective, I think that I want to see Cooley start in the American League. He looked fantastic last year at the start. Like, he looked like he was a brick wall. And I think you got to see what he can do again and sort of make that the hard decision that, okay, Christmas time, make us call you up.
Yeah. Well, unless he, like, literally stands on his head like he did in training camp, and, like, if Prosvetov is giving up 6 goals a game, then you kind of, things will sort itself out quickly. But one way or the other, how would you say, I'm not expecting the Flames to be particularly good this year. So in terms of, like, overall team play, I think that, like, last year's iteration of the team was, like, the best that particular group could do. So, like, I'm expecting some regression towards, like, the overall talent level of the team. And, like, it will be interesting to see exactly where they finish in the standings, but I don't feel that they're going to be particularly high. So having, a questionable-ish backup is not necessarily a bad thing. So we'll see.
Well, and again, I mean, if we go back through, Calgary Flames goalie history, all the years they had Kiprusoff, like, they had some questionable backups. And I think you've got to at some point let Wolf, and I think they're fully prepared to do this, ride through the good and the bad, right? I mean, whether he's doing well or he's not, he needs to be able to work through that, and you need to allow that, and that's what I think they're willing to do. So I think even if you've got, whether it's Cooley or, like, I think Prosvetov, we know what he is. I don't know we know what Cooley is yet, and I think maybe we do, maybe we don't, but he looked so good for the first half of last year. I want to give him one more year to say,
you're actually a goalie or you're not.
Yeah. Or you're our NHL guy going forward or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, like, let's just say I don't think the team's fortunes are going to change no matter which one of them is in a Flames jersey.
No. I think that either one would be kind of a substandard backup goaltender.
If Wolf craps the bed to the point that we need to rely on one of those guys, you're picking first overall.
Yeah. Welcome to Calgary, Gavin McKenna.
That's it. We've just wasted $7.5 million, and we're picking first overall, and hopefully McKenna will sign here 7 years too. I don't think it matters, but I think that I have a feeling the Prostov part of him coming over was NHL time.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this a lot, right? Where even a guy like Prostov, instead of sending him down to the A, they release him and let him go home. We see that all the time. I think that was probably part of his deal.
Yeah. I would assume so, too.
So we've got not really a lot of forwards, some defensemen, and let's say no goalie spot at the NHL level right now. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, and there are always surprises. Nobody, especially after the prospect camp last year, nobody expected Honzek to make the team, and yet he was absolutely stellar in training camp last year. So you never know.
And even 2 years ago, Zary and Postel did not make the team out of camp. Right, both guys were mid-season call-ups that looked fantastic. So even if a guy doesn't make the team out of camp, doesn't mean he's not going to be here and make an impact. And I think that's the big thing for these guys. Like a guy like, I can see Honzek maybe not making the team out of camp. Zary gets hurt. Honzek comes up and takes that job. I think you've got to be ready, even if you're not in camp, to go when you get that call.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of wraps up our preseason, Matt. Anything else you want to talk about before we look at these games?
Not really. Just looking forward to actual games being played by the NHL guys and see how things start to slot out for the year.
Hockey's back, my friend. There's some CBA changes we won't talk about now, but the interesting one that I wonder if we'll start to see pictures of next week is this new rule that they don't need to wear suits anymore. And I wonder if we're going to see guys like Lomberg, who's a joker, start wearing some dinosaur suits or crap like that to the rink.
Mm-hmm. And the rule gets reinstated. 2 weeks later.
So I remember when I played minor hockey, our coach had a rule you had to wear a tie to the game, and the guy would just wear a clip-on tie on his shirt and walk in with that. I don't think you can just reinstate it in the CBA. But
a friend of mine, he actually had a similar rule that he had to wear a tie, and so that's literally all he had on. Top was just the tie, no shirt.
Well, that's the Brian Burke thing, right, too, is NHL executives need to have a tie around their neck. So Burke had a tie around his neck.
Yep.
So I'm glad your friend didn't work in my office. I wouldn't want to see that.
No.
Let's hope nobody's coming into the chilly hockey rink like that. It's not going to show you off really well. So it's, as we record this, the rookie camp is in full swing. The Flames have all their rookies at the Dome. They're young players ready for coming in, doing their physicals, getting ready, and training camp starting. They don't actually play a game for almost a week. The next game will be a split squad game with the Oilers on Sunday the 21st. 6 o'clock Calgary time for both of them. So for those that don't know, split squad means half of our team is here, half of them are in Edmonton. Usually the quote-unquote better team stays home. So it'll be Calgary's B team against the Oilers A team and the Oilers A team against Calgary's B team. These don't have to be rookie games anymore. You can play anybody you want. Is the new rule about veterans only playing, one preseason game in force this year or next year?
I cannot remember.
I don't know. It sounds like some CBA rules are coming in a year early, some aren't. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the problem when you're slow rolling the changes, that it kind of creates a little bit of confusion. I just kind of assumed
next year all this stuff came in, but I'm confused by what they're doing when.
Yeah.
So expect some young guys, some old guys, but both those
games usually
the
home rink guys will be the guys like Carter, Cole Reshny, those kind of guys, Perek.
Yeah, usually
in the home building.
Yeah, usually get a couple veterans in your top prospect. You're probably not going to have your first line guys like Coronado, but you might get your. I can see Farabee, Frost, Sharon Govich,
maybe Huberdeau.
Yeah, because you want to see what some of these young guys can do when they're playing alongside and against NHL players.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect Wolf in that game by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and usually like the road game has like Backlund as the best player, and insert miscellaneous like fourth liners and all the rest of the prospects there.
Yeah. So we'll see how those shake down. They haven't been announced yet, but you can generally watch those on the website. So usually you can go to the Flames website to watch the home game and the Oilers website to watch the away game. In the past, I've had one up on each screen, but that's what we have to look forward to for the next week is the start of rookie camp, and the main camp will start shortly as well, and then the split squad game. So, Matt, wouldn't it be nice if we win our first 4 games against the Oilers, even if they don't count?
That would be very fun.
4 games against the Oilers in just over a week, and then watch. If they win these 4, they're going to go out and lose all the Battle of Alberta this year when they count.
Of course. That's the way you do it. When the games don't matter, you kick the tar out of them, and
that's right.
Then not so much.
And they don't play the Oilers at all in the preseason. They start the season against the Oilers, so these are their 4 games. But at least it'd be nice to get some sort of victory over them. So we'll see if they can win both of those. And you and I will be back to talk about the split squad games and then talk about the opening of the, official preseason where the Flames have 6 games to play there. So that'll wrap us up for this week. It's good to be back talking hockey, and we'll see what happens with the split squad.
Well, and as always, go Flames go.
Fireside Chat is hosted by Dan Stevenson, co-hosted by Matt DeBorg. This episode produced and edited by Peter Marino. Fireside Chat is licensed under Creative Commons license. For full license details, visit firesidechat.ca.